Have you ever felt something heavy in your chest, but had no idea why it was there? Maybe you smiled at someone while silently breaking inside, or pushed down a wave of anger just to keep the peace. If that sounds like you, this video might change the way you look at yourself forever. Let's talk about emotional awareness. Not just what it is, but how it can take the worst moments of your life and turn them into your greatest power. Most of us were never taught what to do with our emotions. We were taught to behave, to toughen up, to stop crying. But here's the twist. Your emotions are not your problems to be fixed. They're signals. They're data, and ignoring them is like turning off your GPS while driving through a storm. In this video, we're going to discuss what emotional awareness really means, why many of us are disconnected from it, and how learning to feel what you feel without shame can help you heal from trauma and grow into someone stronger than ever before. Let's dive in. So what is emotional awareness? At its core, emotional awareness means being able to recognize and name what you're feeling, not just in your head, but in your body. It means noticing when sadness is showing up as tiredness, or when fear is hiding under irritation. It's being able to say, this is anger, this is shame, this is grief, and to do it without judging yourself. Why does that matter? Because until you name it, you can't work with it. And what you won't work with will run your life from the shadows. Think about the last time you snapped at someone over something small. Odds are, it wasn't really about them. That little thing just poked a nerve connected to something much deeper. As to check with emotional awareness, it doesn't go away, it just leaks out. In arrogance, in avoidance, in burnout. Therefore, a lot of us in trauma loops like deep repeating. Let's talk about that. Trauma isn't always a car crash or a war zone. Sometimes it's growing up in a house where your feelings aren't welcome. Sometimes it's being the one who had to hold it together while everyone else fell apart. And when we don't process that, when we bury our emotions, they don't disappear. They just get buried alive. And anything buried alive will fight to be seen again. This is where emotional awareness becomes survival level important. Let me tell you about Jordan. Jordan's a 32-year-old who always felt like something was off. They'd go through cycles, getting super productive, then crashing, getting close to people, then suddenly ghosting them. It wasn't until therapy that Jordan realized they'd never been able to feel anger growing up. Whenever they got upset as a kid, they were punished, shamed, or told to stop being dramatic. So Jordan learned to smile instead. They became the fixer, the peacekeeper. But inside, there was a backlog of rage, sadness, and fear. Emotions that had nowhere to go. Sound familiar? This is what happens when emotional awareness gets cut off. When you don't stop feeling, you stop knowing how you feel. And that disconnection, that's what keeps the trauma alive. But there's good news. It doesn't have to stay that way. Emotional awareness is something that you can build. It's not just for people who had perfect childhoods or years of therapy. It starts simple. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Not what you should feel, not what's that you off in traffic. But underneath that, you're scared. Scared you're invisible. Scared no one cares. Thoughts are like clouds, fast moving, ever shifting. But emotions are like weather patterns. They stick around until they're acknowledged. When you can tell the difference between what you think and what you actually feel, you stop getting tricked by your own mind. You start acting from the truth, not reactivity. Here's another real-world example. Alina was always described as chill. Nothing seemed to rattle her, but inside, she felt numb. Turns out, being chill was her way of surviving a chaotic household where emotions exploded without warning. She didn't learn to process feelings. She learned to hide them. When she finally allowed herself to cry in a yoga class at all places, something broke open. She didn't even know why she was crying. just that it felt real. And from that moment on, she began the practice of checking in daily. What am I feeling? Where is it in my body? Now, she still looks chill, but she feels more alive than ever. Because emotional awareness doesn't make you more dramatic, it makes you more whole. Let's break another myth while we're at it. Emotional awareness doesn't mean you have to talk about your feelings all day. It doesn't mean turning every moment into a therapy session. Sometimes it means taking a breath, pausing before reacting, choosing kindness towards yourself in the middle of a spiral. That counts. Even a 10-second check-in with yourself is powerful. Am I holding tension in my jaw? Is this anxiety or excitement? Do I need a break, or am I just overstimulated? These micro moments add up, like drops in a bucket, and eventually that bucket overflows, not with claim, but with understanding. And from understanding comes choice. You get to choose how to respond, choose who you let in. You get to choose what kind of life you want to build, not based on avoidance, but on awareness. Let's address one last thing before we close: emotional shame. For many people, emotional awareness is blocked by not ignorance, but by shame. You've been told things like, you're too sensitive, crying is weak, you need to toughen up. Messages like this just don't hurt. They teach us to hide, to disconnect, to believe that our inner world is somehow wrong. But emotional awareness means unlearning all of that. It means recognizing that being sensitive isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Sensitivity is what allows us to feel deeply, love fully, and connect authentically. It's what allows you to walk into a room and know something's off, even when no one says a word. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. So if you spent your life apologizing for your feelings, stop. You were never too much. You were never not enough. You were just never given the tools to understand what was going on inside. Until now. Let's reframe emotional awareness one final time. It's not indulgent. It's not dramatic. It's intelligence. Emotional intelligence. And it's just as important, if not more, than any other kind. Studies show that people with high emotional intelligence have better relationships, perform better at work, and experience higher overall well-being. And it starts with one thing: tuning in. So here's your permission slip. Feel what you feel. Let it be messy. Let it be real. Let it be human. Because you are. You are fully, deeply, beautifully human. You got your superpower. Thank you for spending this time tuning in with me. Keep watching. Your next step might be just one click away. Or yet, just what is actually happening inside of you. Then get curious. Where do I feel this in my body? When does this feeling start? What might be it trying to tell me? And most importantly, can I let it be here just for a moment without trying to fix or hide it? That's where the healing begins. Now, let's get real. This is not always easy, especially if you grew up in survival mode. If your childhood taught you that being emotional was dangerous, then of course you learned to shut it down. That wasn't dysfunction, that was protection. But what protected you then might be limiting you now. Here's the challenge. You can't hear what you can't feel. Let that sink in. So many of us want to move forward, to get over it. But the truth is, the only way out is through. And emotional awareness is your flashlight through that darkness. Let's pause here and break down the 5 core emotional awareness skills, because these are tools you can start using today. Number 1, name the feeling. Don't say I feel bad, that's too vague. Try sad, ashamed, overwhelmed, nervous, numb, frustrated, anything else. Number 2, accept the emotion. Don't judge it. Emotions are just data, not real feelings. Anger doesn't make you that person. Fear doesn't make you weak. Number 3, look at it physically. Is your chest tight? Is your stomach sinking? Your body speaks in sensation. Listen to it. Number 4, track the pattern. Notice when it comes up, after phone calls, with certain people, at certain times of the day. Number 5, Respond, don't react. Once you've identified the feeling, you can choose how to respond instead of being hijacked by it. These steps might seem small, but they're radical. Because each time you do this, you're breaking a cycle. You're becoming someone who feels on purpose, not by accident. Let's revisit Jordan for a second. Once Jordan learned to manage their feelings, things started changing. When they felt that familiar tension rising, they didn't shove it down, they got curious. Is this old anger? Is this fear of being abandoned? Instead of ghosting, they started having hard conversations. Instead of spiraling into burnout, they started setting boundaries. And guess what? Their relationships deepened. Their work felt more meaningful. They felt real for the first time in years. That's the power of emotional awareness. It doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you more you. Let's dig even deeper. You know what's wild? Most of us learned algebra before we learned how to sit with sadness. We were taught the parts of a cell, but not how to name grief. No wonder so many adults walk around with unspoken pain. We were emotionally illiterate, and we didn't even know it. But here's the thing. Emotional awareness isn't just a soft skill, it's a survival skill. It impacts your decisions, your relationships, your health. Yes, your health. Chronic stress, the kind that comes from bottling emotions, has been linked to everything from high blood pressure to gut issues to immune disorders. When you swallow your feelings, your body keeps the score, literally. So learning emotional awareness isn't just about mental health, it's about whole body healing. Now let's talk about something most people miss, the difference between emotions and thoughts. You might think you're angry because someone